Welcome to lecture number 5 of Professional Ethics, paper number 3, CA Final Advanced Auditing and Professional Ethics. So, this is your faculty, CA Rohit Grover. So, today we are going to, I'm going to make you understand the next clauses. So, I think in the previous lecture, we have already understood the remaining balance of the residual self-regulatory measures or self-regulatory guidelines which are given by the ICAI relating to branch audit or joint audit or qualified assistant, unqualified assistant ratio, management consultancy company. And I also told you in the previous lecture about the difference between the professional misconduct and other misconduct. And if you remember, we have already also discussed relating to schedules of professional misconduct and other misconduct. So if you remember this particular chart, so schedule 1 and schedule 2 we have discussed. In the schedule 1 4 parts are there: part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. And schedule 2 main 3 parts are there: part 1, part 2, part 3. And in that we have already discussed about what we have already discussed about how many clauses which party is having. So we are already into the process of doing the part number 1 of schedule 1, that is called professional misconduct in relation to members in practice. So professional misconduct in relation to members in practice, there are total 12 clauses, and out of 12 clauses we are already done with the clause number 1. So what was clause number 1? If you are allowing any person to practice in your name as a chartered accountant and that person is not a chartered accountant in practice and neither your partner and nor your what do you say employee, then in that case you are guilty of professional misconduct under clause number 1, part 1, schedule 1. Are you getting the point? So these are the three things you should always mention in the examination. It is a clause number, it is a part number, and it's a schedule number. And act, if you want you can display it. And clause number 2 may also I told you, if you are a member in practice, if you are sharing or allowing your partner to share, if you are agreeing to share or agreeing to allow your partner to share your profits, your business profits, your share of profits, or your brokerage or commission from your professional business directly or indirectly in India or outside India to the persons other than, you can share it with your partners, no problem. You can share it with your retired partner, no problem. You can share it with the legal representative of retired partner, where we have already talked about it should be written in the partnership deed provision. And yes, goodwill wala point also we understood ki whether the legal representative of the deceased member in practice can send the goodwill of the firm or not. Yes, so you can share it with the legal representative. You can share it with the another member in practice, no problem. You can share it with the professionals also, there's no problem. So who are those professionals? These are the list of professionals given under regulation number 53A and 53B, where we have understood that yes, CS, CMA, LLB, MBA, BTech, BE, BR, and BE, BTech, BR, actuarial scientists. These are the 8 professionals with whom you can also share your profits, your commission or brokerage. But other than these, nothing is allowed. Are you getting the point? So if you are sharing your profit, brokerage or commission of your business with any one of these, if with any person other than these persons, then you are guilty of professional misconduct under clause number 2, part 1 of schedule 1. Did you understand the point? So we have discussed so many like provisions relating to that. We have discussed notes also relating to that. So now today we are going to understand about the clause number 3. Let me tell you one thing. What is clause number 3, by the way? Clause number 3 is opposite to clause number 2. So in the clause number 2, we are sharing. I'm allowing my partner to share. I'm agreeing to share. But in the clause number 3, we are accepting. So clause number 2 was outflow, when you are sharing your profits, brokerage or commission, or clause number 3 when you are accepting profit, brokerage or commission from anybody else. So what is the clause number 3? Now see, what is the clause number 3? When you accept. Now see, what is the clause saying? When you accept or when you agree to accept. When you accept or when you agrees to accept any part of the profits of the professional work of a person who is not a member of institute, provided that nothing herein contained shall be construed as prohibiting a member from entering into the profit sharing or other similar arrangements, including receiving any share, commission, brokerage in the fees with a member of such professional body or other persons having qualification as referred to in item 2 of this part. Now remember one thing, It is not in this way. You have to remember. You have to remember it as opposite clause to clause number 2. So clause number 2 was about sharing your profits, what do you say, sharing your profits, brokerage and commission with the persons other than the member, other than the partner, other than the retired, other than the legal representative, and other than the professional. Here, if you are accepting it, if you are accepting it someone's profit who is other than the member, other than the professionals, then in that case you are guilty under clause number 3. So if you have done the clause number 2 perfectly, there is no problem in clause number 3. Clause number 2 is about sharing and clause number 2 is about accepting. Are you getting the point? So it doesn't look good, it doesn't look ethical if the member in practice accepts someone's shares or someone's profit or someone's brokerage or someone's commission other than the member of the institute or other than from the other professionals. Are you getting the point? If you are accepting it, it is nothing but it is unethical and you are guilty of professional misconduct under clause number 3, part 1 of schedule 1. Are you getting the point? Now, what is the interpretation of this clause? So there is nothing required to be written in this clause. You just try to understand it. Just as a member cannot share his fees with the non-member, he also not permitted to receive and share the fees of other except for sharing with the member of other professional body or other persons having qualification as may be prescribed. So you are neither allowed to share with any outsider nor you are allowed to accept it from outsider. With whom you can accept, with whom you can share, that will already know the list. Like you can accept it with the member, partner, retired partner, legal representative, and other professionals. So neither you can share nor you are allowed to accept it. Right? This clause is very similar to clause number 2, except that the clause prohibits the receiving of any share in other professional other than prescribed ones. The list of professionals or bodies with whom sharing is permitted is same as under clause number 2. So what is clause number 2? What is clause number 3? Basically, everyone, clause number 3 is all about sharing was in clause number 2. Sharing was in clause number 2. Accepting is in clause number 3. Are you getting the point? I'm just writing it for your reference. So sharing may you are professional, you are guilty of professional misconduct for sharing your profits, brokerage and commission in clause number 2. But if you are accepting the same from the persons other than the allowed person, then you are guilty under clause number 3. So clause number 2 and clause number 3 are very similar to each other. They are just that they are opposite to each other. That's it. That is what you have to understand. Clear? Yes. Next point, sir. In the next point, you have to understand now clause number 4. Very, very important. Clause number 4 is very important. In the clause number 4, you are going to understand if you are a member in practice, then you cannot enter partnership with, any professionals. You cannot enter partnership with any professionals outside India. You cannot enter partnership with any professionals of outside India. What do you mean by outside India? Basically, this clause is prohibiting you to enter into partnership. Now remember one thing, whenever the clause number 4 will come, the major thing you have to understand is partnership. Remember, clause number 1 may allowing someone. Clause number 2, you are sharing with someone. Clause number 3, you are accepting from someone. Clause number 4, if you are a member in practice, if you are a practicing CA and you are entering a partnership with the professionals of the accounting bodies which are outside India. Let me give you an example. If you are entering into a partnership with the CPA, if you are entering a partnership with the ACCA, not allowed. You are not allowed to enter into partnership. What is the main word here is partnership. You are not allowed to enter into partnership with the ACCA, or you are not allowed to enter into what do you say, uh, partnership with the CPA. Sir, with whom a member in practice can enter into partnership? Now I will make it very, very simple, this clause for you. This is called interpretation of the clause. Now do we all know 53A and 53B list? Yes, we all know 53A and 53B regulation list. What is the 53A and 53B regulation list? Sir, CS, Sir, CMA, Sir, BE, Sir, BTech, Sir, LLB, Sir, Actuarial Scientist, Sir, MBA, and Bachelor of Architecture. Do you remember all these things? So my question is very simple. Can you enter a partnership with the CA? Yes. Can you enter a partnership with the another practicing CA? Yes. Can you enter a partnership with the CS? Yes, allowed. There is no problem. Can you enter a partnership with the CMA? Allowed. Can you enter a partnership with the LLB? Allowed. Can you enter a partnership with the Bachelor of Engineering? Allowed. Can you enter a partnership with the Bachelor in Technology? Allowed. And can you enter a partnership with the Actuarial Scientist? That is allowed. But remember one thing, when it comes to the clause number 4, you are not allowed to enter the partnership with MBA and Bachelor of Architecture. Sharing the fees with 8 professionals allowed. Accepting the fees from these 8 professionals allowed, but entering the partnership with the outside professionals not allowed. And in India also, entering the partnership with the MBA and Bachelor of Architecture is not allowed. Other than the MBA and Bachelor of Architecture with CS, CMA, BE, BTech, LLB and AS, council does not have any problem. So you can enter a partnership with the CA, with another practicing CA, with the CS, CMA, LLB, BE, BTech, actuarial scientist. No problem in entering the partnership firm with these one. But if you are entering a partnership with an MBA, if you are entering a partnership with the Bachelor of Architecture, if you are entering a partnership with the CIMA professional, if you are entering a partnership with the CPA, if you are entering a partnership with the ACCA, in all these cases you are guilty of professional misconduct. So remember one thing, 53A and 53B contains the 8 other professionals with whom you can share your fees, no problem, no guilty. With whom you can accept the fees from, no guilty. But when it comes to particularly about the partnership, you are supposed to enter a partnership not with MBA, not with Bachelor of Architecture, not with the professionals from the another accounting bodies outside India. You can only enter into a partnership either with a CS or a CMA or a CA or a BE or a BTech or actuarial scientist or LLB. That's it. MBA, Bachelor of Architecture, CIMA, CPS, ACCA outside India are not allowed. And if you are entering into partnership with them, then in that case, you are guilty of professional misconduct under clause number 4, part 1, schedule 1. Did you understand the point? So that is what clause number 4 is all about. So I made you understand the clause number 4 in such a manner. Why? Because why I am telling you in this manner first and making you read the clause later on? Because once you will understand my understanding of teaching you the clauses, it will be 120% easy for you to understand it at the later point. Did you get the point or not? So remember one thing, partnership with the 6 people allowed, sharing with the 8 professionals allowed, accepting with the 8 professional allowed. Are you getting the point or not? But partnership, especially again and again I'm repeating the word called partnership with the 6 professional is only allowed. Clear everyone? Yes. Now listen to this. Let us read the clause number 6. Now see, enters into partnership. What is the clause starts with? Enters into partnership. So clause number 4, whenever the partnership related question will come, directly in your mind clause number 4 should come. Enters into partnership in India or outside India. Enters into partnership in India or outside India. Who? Member in practice. So part 1 is relating to all the professional misconducts of members in practice. So remember one thing, member in practice is the common word which you have to use in all these 12 clauses. Why? Because all the 12 clauses are only talking about members in practice. So enters into partnership in India or outside India with any person other than chartered accountant in practice. With any person other than chartered accountant in practice. So you can enter into a partnership with uh, chartered accountant in practice, but if you are entering into partnership in India or outside India other than chartered accountant in practice, but sir, you told 6 professionals also. We have still so many sentences to take care of. Such other person who is a member of any other professional body having qualifications as may be prescribed, including resident, who but for his residence abroad would be entitled to be registered as a member under clause number 5 of subsection 1 of section 4, and whose qualifications are recognized by the central government or the council for the purpose of permitting such partnership. Remember one thing, sir, हमें कुछ भी नहीं समझ में आया. We didn't understand what you said. We didn't find that in here. That is what the faculty is required. That is where the interpretation is required. Remember one thing, we are going to tear off this clause in such a manner so that you can understand. First of all, did you understand that you can enter a partnership with the CA in practice? Yes, sir, that we understood. Sir, we are still not able to understand where those 6 list is given. Out of 8 people, why MBA and B Arc is not allowed? Because they are not considered as professional to enter into partnership with. Sharing and accepting is different case. But entering a partnership with an MBA or entering the partnership with the word Bachelor of Architecture is something not allowed under this clause. Only 6 people out of 8 people are allowed. Sir, where it is written? Here it is written. Now see, any of the following persons shall be entitled to have his name registered in, namely, any person who has passed under such a, you all know that, who can be the member in practice? Tell me, who is known as a chartered accountant? Chartered accountant is the one who has passed his CA final exams. A chartered accountant is the one, do you remember, who cleared his 3 years of articleship? And chartered accountant is the one who has also cleared his GMCS. So if you are holding a certificate of practice also, you are allowed to be entering into a partnership with the CA in practice. So any person who has completed such examination, central council being equivalent to examination training period, provided that in case of any person who is not permanently residing in India, central government or council as may impose such condition as may be fit. So 53A and 53B, same list we have to refer, but I will show you where it is written that MBA and Bachelor of Architecture is not allowed. So remember one thing, out of 8 professionals, only 6 professionals are there with whom you can enter into partnership. Now see, CA is not permitted to enter into partnership in or outside India with any of the persons other than CA in practice. Can you enter into partnership with the CA in practice? Yes. Members with a prescribed qualification, such other members, regulation 53 and 50B includes advocate. Now look at that. Advocate, LLB, CS, CWA, engineers. Bachelor of Engineering and Bachelor of Technology, both are known as engineer, as in clause 2 and clause 3. But suppose if you are entering into MBA or if you are entering into with the Bachelor of Architecture, then it is not allowed. Now see, and who are the other peoples with whom you can enter into partnership, with whom the council has entered into MRA? Sir, what do you mean by MRA? Mutual recognition agreements. If the ICAI has entered MRA with the other professional bodies outside India or in India under mutual recognition agreement, remember one thing, if the ICAI has entered under mutual recognition agreement with the other professional, then in that case you can enter into a partnership with those professionals also. Are you getting the point? That is what is written in this point. Such other qualified individuals whose qualifications are recognized by central council for entering into a partnership with the CA. So these are the 4 people with whom you can enter a partnership with. Other than these, not allowed. Now next point, all regulations and all notifications regarding allowing any person including chartered accountant equivalent of other countries have been withdrawn since 1998. Thereby exists no other provision permitting any person of foreign practicing chartered accountant firm to enter into a partnership with CA in India other than those prescribed in the 53 and 53B with members with whom institute has entered into MRA. So either you can enter a partnership with the 6 people of 53A and 53B or with the other professional bodies with whom the institute has entered MRA. Now suppose in the examination they may ask you the question, chartered accountant in practice has entered into a partnership with the CPA of Australia. Now tell me one thing, a chartered accountant in practice entering into a partnership with the CPA of Australia, allowed or not allowed? Generally not allowed. But if the ICAI has entered into mutual recognition agreement with the CPA of Australia, then you are allowed. Are you getting the point or not? So that is what the examples of the mutual recognition agreements which we have entered with. Mutual recognition agreement with the Canadian Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. Oh, sorry, Canadian Institute of Chartered Accountants. Mutual recognition agreement between ICA and CPA of Ireland. ICAA and CPA of Ireland, not America, not Australia. Mutual recognition agreement with the CPA Australia. So here CPA Australia has been covered. Memorandum of understanding with the Institute of Chartered Accountant of England and Wales. So these are the various examples of MRA with the foreign bodies. So if these questions will come in the examination, and in the question it is specially written कि ICA is entered into a mutual recognition agreement with these particular organizations, then only partnership is allowed. So remember one thing, partnership is allowed with whom? Sir, partnership is allowed with the CA in practice in India, CS, CMA, advocate. Remember one thing, MBA and Bachelor of Architecture generally are not allowed. Did you get the point? So 8 are allowed for sharing, 6 are allowed for, what do you say, 8 are allowed for sharing and 6 are allowed for partnership. 8 are allowed for sharing and receiving of income or profits, but 6 are allowed only for partnership. So remember one thing, for clause 2 there are 8 other professionals, for clause there are 8 other professionals, but for the clause number 4 there are 6 professionals only. I hope everyone is crystal clear. Yes sir, crystal clear. Now so clause number 1, so abhi apan what we'll do is we'll do the compounding revision of total 4 clauses of part 1 of schedule 1. First of all, what is part 1? So professional misconduct relating to members in practice. And what is schedule clause number 1? Clause number 1, if you are allowing any person to practice in your name as a chartered accountant other than the chartered accountant in practice, neither he is your partner or nor is your employee, you are guilty under clause number 1. When you are guilty under clause number 2, if you are sharing. When you are guilty under clause number 3, if you are receiving. When you are guilty under clause number 4, if you are entering into a partnership. So remember one thing I told you yesterday also, a 34 clauses. I will make sure that all those 34 clauses will be there inside you in a sequential manner. Now let us proceed with the clause number 5. Now what is clause number 5, everyone? What is clause number 5? Now clause number 5 says that if you are securing professional work, if you are securing a professional work, sir, who is securing the professional work? Again, if the member in practice secures a professional work, if a member in practice secures a professional work from persons other than from the persons other than your employee, other than your partner, and other than 53A and 53B other professionals. So if you are securing a professional work, if you are taking any kind of professional work from the persons other than your employees, other than your partners, other than the professionals which are given under 53A and 53B, then in that case you are guilty of professional misconduct under clause number 5. In that case you are guilty of professional misconduct under clause number 5. Clear? Yes sir, we are clear. Did you understand? Yes sir, we understood. So remember one thing, 1 relating to allowing someone, 2 relating to sharing, 3 relating to accepting, 4 relating to partnership, and 5 relating to securing professional work. Who is securing? All are relating to members in practice. So if you are securing a professional work from the persons other than your employee, other than your partner, other than the professionals of 53A and 53B, then in that case you are guilty of professional misconduct under clause number 5. Yes sir, yes, we understood. Now see, let us understand what is clause number 5. Secures. What is the word used? Secures. Either through services of the person who is not an employee, means if you are securing the work from other than employee, or chartered accountant from another other than another chartered accountant, or who is not your partner. So if you are securing the work from other than your employee, other than the chartered accountant, or other than your partner, or by means which are not open to the chartered accountants, any professional business, if you are securing what? Any professional business providing nothing herein contained shall be construed as prohibiting an arrangement permitted in terms of item 2, 3 and 4. What is item 2, 3 and 4? 53A and 53B professionals, you can secure the professional work from them. But you are not allowed to secure the professional work from any person other than a chartered accountant, other than your employee, other than your partner, and other than 53A and 53B regulation professional. So if you are securing any work from these people, then in that case you are ruining your reputation. Why you are asking, why you are securing the work from the other professionals? Secure the work from your employees. If you are telling your employees to bring me some work, it's fine. If you are telling your partner to give me some work, it's fine. If you are telling the other professionals to give me your work, fine, because they also understand, because they are also professional. But if you are giving any outsider, if you are telling any outsider for the professional work, he will doubt your talent, because we are chartered accountant. It is unethical. That's why a member in practice will be held guilty of professional misconduct if you are securing a professional work from other than your employee, other than a chartered accountant, other than your partner, and other than the other professionals given under section 53A and 53B regulation. Now see, what is the interpretation of the clause? CA must not seek a work through a person who is not his employee or his partner, or by the means which are not open to a chartered accountant. The work will follow to him due to the respect that commands for his professional work. So remember one thing, people should come to us for a work. People should come to us for a work. We should not go to the people for work. Bloody, we are a chartered accountant. So when you are a chartered accountant, you should not degrade your dignity. You should not degrade your, professionalism. People should come to your work, sir. ITR is required, sir. This people should come to your work. You are not required to secure the work from the outsider. So that, that doubts your dignity of the profession, and that doubts your talent. So in that case, that doubts your skill also, that doubts your confidence also, that you are unable to secure the work on your own. That is the reason I say if the member in practice is found guilty of securing the work from the people other than the employee, partner, or the other professionals, then you will be guilty of professional misconduct under clause number 5, part 1 of schedule 1. All right. Now that doubts your professional talent, skill, and by confidence he is able to inspire by his reputation. All forms of canvassing on that account are regarded unethical and are prohibited. Now, a man must stand erect and not be kept erect by others. You should stand on your own. You should build your reputation on your own in the market, that people should come to you and give the work. You should not be in such a position that you are begging your work from somebody else. Don't put your hand like this in front of somebody. Please give me the work. People should come to you and give you the work. That is what the idea behind professional misconduct under clause number 5. Why they are punishing you for guilty of professional misconduct under clause number 5? So you have a skill, you have a talent, you have a confidence, build your own employee. So you should stand erect on your own, not you should be kept erect by the others. So it is a dictum by Marcus at which although applicable for the man in every walk of life is more in the case of professional. So a chartered accountant. Now let's see this example. Suppose there is one chartered, Jethan and Sharda versus Deepak Mehta. A chartered accountant wrote various letters to the officers of different army canteen giving details about him and his experience. Now you are again and again sending the letters. You are again and again sending the letters to the army canteen people giving your details. I am this, I am that, I am this, I am that. Why you are sending your details? Why you are sending your details? People should come to know that you are having an experience. People should come to know that you are having a skill. People should come to know that we are having a talent. Sir, you are saying everything impractical. I know what you are thinking from inside. What I'm saying is how people will come to know that I have a talent, skill and experience. If the chartered accountants will not solicit the work, they will not secure the work, then in that case how the people will come to know that there is a chartered accountant in this street having a practice? I can understand, but we can't do anything. These are the code of ethics which are being given by the ICAI. So ICAI says that if you are found guilty of securing the work from any person other than a chartered accountant, other than your employee, other than your partner, other than the other professionals, then in that case you are guilty of professional. Now in this example, you are again and again various letters. Now look at this word. What is the word? Various letters. You have sent various letters to the officers of different army canteen giving details about him and his experience. His partner at office and the norms of charging audit fees. He was held guilty of violation under clause number 5 and 6. Now, why clause number 5 came, that you understood. Sir, why clause number 6 came? 6 will also come because 6 is very similar to 5, but very, very and highly important clause. So, today's session mostly is going to be dedicated to clause number 6 only. It is going to be dedicated to the clause number 6 only. Are you getting the point? So in the clause number 6, we are going to understand approximately it deserves 45 minutes of discussion. Clause number 6. And clause number 7, another half an hour of discussion. So 45 plus half an hour, minimum 1 hour 15 minutes of discussion is required on these two clauses. Otherwise, you are not doing justification. And remember one thing, in the whole professional ethics, clause number 6 and clause number 7 are the biggest of all clauses, where so many guidelines and so many ocean of questions can be asked in the examination. And remember one thing, clause number 6 and clause number 7, they are brother and sister. Wherever 6 is coming, 7 will automatically come, and wherever 7 is coming, 6 also will automatically come. That kind of relationship the ICAI has tried to develop between the 6 and 7. So far, how many clauses we are done with? Sir, we are done with the 5 clauses. So what are the 5 clauses? The clause number 1 was talking about what? Tell me. Clause number 1 was talking about what? Clause number 1 was talking about allowing someone. Am I correct? So that was clause number 1. Sir, clause number 2 was what? Sharing. Sir, clause number 3 was what? Accepting. Sir, clause number 4 was what? Partnership. And clause number 5 was what? Clause number 5 was securing the professional. Now, the most important clause now we are going to discuss. So what is the name of the clause? The name of the clause is clause number 6. The number of the clause is clause number 6. Very, 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 very important. Are you getting the point? Yes, सबसे important clause है, most important clause. Now listen to this very carefully. As a member in practice, as a member in practice, if you are if you are soliciting the work, if you are soliciting the work, what do you mean by soliciting? Soliciting means requesting the work. That's why 5 and 6 little bit very close, but wahan pe we are not using the word called soliciting. There we are using the word called securing professional work. If you are securing professional work, but here if you are soliciting means requesting any work, begging, if you are demanding, if you are begging the work. So if a member in practice found guilty of soliciting the work from clients, soliciting the work from clients, you are begging the work from the clients either directly or indirectly, either directly or indirectly via circulars, you are sending them circulars, or via advertisement, you are doing the advertisement in the newspaper or any mode of advertisement, via personal communication, you are doing the personal communication with your client, or via giving the interviews, you are giving the interviews to obtain the what do you say, work. You are requesting the work via circulars, via advertisement, via personal communication, via interviews, or any other means, or what, any other means. In such case, you are guilty of professional misconduct under clause number 6. बहुत बड़ा clause है, it's a very huge clause, and each and every word which I have written in front of you having a guidelines on that. That makes this particular clause even bigger. That makes this particular clause even bigger. We are going to understand कि when the chartered accountant in practice, when a member in practice giving the interviews, what are the guidelines? When a member in practice is doing the personal communication, what are the guidelines? When you're getting printed your name in the telephone directory, what are the guidelines? If you are having a website, what are the guidelines? Each and every single word will be told to you. So relax and just listen to the class very properly. Clause number 6, definitely clause 6 and 7, one question in the examination. That is 120% sure. So if you know each and every guideline, I'll try my level best to make you list off each and every guideline, or at least I will make a note on the material so that while watching the video, you can also make a note of important points. So let us just analyze this clause first. So what this clause is saying, if you are soliciting the work, sir, what do you mean by soliciting the work? Requesting, if you are begging the work from your clients, either directly or indirectly via sending circulars, by doing advertisements, by doing personal communication, or by giving the interviews in the newspaper, or by giving the interviews in the news channel, or any other means, then in that case you are guilty of professional misconduct under clause number 6 of part 1 of schedule 1. Did you get the point? Now, there are exceptions also that you have to understand. There are exceptions also. So what are the exceptions? A practicing CA, if soliciting, a practicing CA, if requesting the work from another chartered accountant in practice, a practicing CA, if a member in practice is soliciting a work from another member in practice, then it is allowed. Then it will not be guilty of professional misconduct. Sir, why? Why? Sir, a one chartered accountant should help the other chartered accountant. I already told you this thing in the self-regulatory measures in the previous video also, that we should try to promote the community. We should try to promote the community in such a manner that one chartered accountant will be helping the another chartered accountant. That is the reason, if a practicing CA is requesting the professional work or any kind of work from the another member in practice, you are not guilty of professional misconduct under clause number 6. That is the exception number 1. Exception number 2, if you are replying or if you are responding, if you are replying or if you are responding to tenders, if you are, suppose sometimes क्या होता है, जैसे C&AG empanelment came, or you can say Reserve Bank of India empanelment came for the auditing. Do we reply to such empanelments or not? Yes, we reply to such empanelment. If you are replying or responding to the tenders or empanelments, if you are replying to the tenders or empanelments, then also you are allowed. So if you are replying, what do you mean by replying? They are asking, then only you are replying. That's the reason you are not soliciting. They are asking your information, you are replying to those tenders. That's why you are not guilty of any kind of professional misconduct. So what are the two exceptions which are allowed? A practicing CA soliciting the work from the another practicing CA allowed. Replying or responding to the tenders and panelments is also allowed. Did you get the point? So this is what are the two exceptions. This is what the whole clause is all about. But don't worry, clause is not yet over. Only the clause where act language is over. Now let me make you understand the same language from the material. Then we'll try to tear off the clause each and every part. Are you getting the point? Now listen. What is clause number 6? Solicits clients. If you are soliciting your client or professional work, either directly or indirectly, via circular, advertisement, personal communication, or interview, or any other means, provided that nothing herein contained shall be construed as preventing or prohibiting. So, this is what I told you, if you are soliciting the work from your client, then you are guilty of professional misconduct. But there are two exceptions also, I told you. What are the two exceptions? Any chartered accountant from applying or requesting or inviting or securing the professional work from another chartered accountant in practice, allowed. A member from responding to the tenders or inquiries issued by the various users of professional services or organization from time to time securing professional work as a consequence, that is also allowed. That is what I told you. Two exceptions are allowed. Are you getting the point? Then in that case, in both the cases, you are not guilty. In both the cases, you are not guilty. But if you are soliciting, if you are requesting other than these two means, then in that case, you are guilty. Now you can see that Council has issued guidelines for the website which has been given hereafter in clause. Now remember one thing. Can you make website or not? Yes. A chartered accountant in practice, can he make website or not? Yes. So each and every guideline which is written or which we are going to discuss, I will try my level best to write it on the right side in a simplified manner so that you are able to understand for the examination purpose. As I already told you, once the last lecture of professional ethics will be recorded, I will be sending you the PDF file also. Clear? Now see, what are the guidelines? Now for the next half an hour, we are only going to concentrate on the guidelines which are issued by the ICA. All the guidelines, in which way we can solicit, in which way we cannot solicit, what is allowed, what is not allowed. So many guidelines are there. Make sure that you are concentrating properly. Now, a member should not adopt any direct or indirect methods to advertise their professional practice with a view to gain publicity and thereby solicit the clients of professional work. The services rendered by an accountant is of a personal and intimate nature, and its value can be appraised only by the personal contract and experience and not by the advertisement. So, in the paragraph number 1, they are trying to tell you that people should come to you, because of your talent, because of your knowledge, because of your expertise. You should not be in a position, if a member in practice is soliciting, it means he's not having the work, he's not talented. That is what the ICA is trying to tell you. Okay, so that is what ICA is trying to tell you, that don't solicit work, don't demand the work, don't request the work, because it is not good for your profession. It degrades your integrity or dignity of your profession. But let me tell you one thing, practically so many things happen. Are you getting the point? Because in the practice, until and unless you don't have a good network of clients, you can't make a good living. I'm telling you, making a living in the practice is very difficult, everyone. The first beginning 2 to 3 years, I know that how I have survived. I'm a 7 years old practicing CA. I'm an FCA by now. But I know that the first 2 to 3 years were very, very, they are very, very, there are some, times when I thought that I should leave the practice. So that's the reason, along with the practice, I had to come in the teaching profession to support my financial satisfaction, to support my financial need. So that's the reason, now with God's grace, little bit of practice goes well. So things are turning well. Are you getting the point or not? But let me tell you practical experience. First 2 to 3 years, it's highly recommended that you should have the alternate source of income along your practice, because you are not allowed to solicit, you are not allowed to advertise. Then how the people will come to know that you are a practicing CA? That is the main problem. If you will solicit or advertise, I say will put a case on you for professional misconduct, guilty case. And if you will not solicit, no one will come to know that you are a practicing CA. So, things are not in a proper way in the beginning years. So, let us understand the guidelines which we can do, which we can't do. Advertisements and note in the press. Not permitted to canvass for work through advertisement except in the following cases. A member may request another chartered accountant in another member, or a member may advertise changes in the partnership. So, suppose if you are giving the press advertisements, if you are giving the press or advertisements, what are the things which are allowed? Let me make it right for you. A practicing CA asking the work from another practicing CA, first of all, allowed. Second thing, second thing, when a member and advertising, when the member is advertising, say for example, if you are going for an advertisement, if you are going for the advertisement, make sure that you are advertising just bare statement of facts. Bare statement of facts. You should not advertise in such a manner, we are the best chartered accountancy firm of Hyderabad, shifting from this place to this place. Why unnecessarily you are saying the best chartered accountancy firm? These kind of professional attainments, these kind of unnecessary publicity, these kind of things are not required to be allowed in the advertisement. So what is allowed in the advertisement? Only the bare statement of facts. Say for example, you are changing your partnership, simple bare statement of facts. You are changing your office or shifting your office, am I correct or not? You are giving the vacancy requirements. So simple, just give the advertisement, simply just give the advertisement in the newspaper, that is allowed. Press release in the newspaper, that is allowed. But if you are saying that we are the best chartered accountants, since 1992. It means showing that you are having 22 years of experience. All these things are indirect solicitation. All these things are indirect advertisement. So these things are not at all allowed. Are you getting the point? So what is allowed? Now see, member may advertising changes in practices or dissolution of the firm, or any change in the address of the practice or telephone number. Such statement should only be informative with appropriate circulation area of media, size and number of insertions of advertisement. Now you are shifting from one office to another office. There's no point of giving the advertisement in Times of India. Give the advertisement in the local newspaper, so that at least those clients who are your clients, they will come to know that okay, you are shifted from this area to that area. So jurisdiction is also a very important thing. Circulation area is also a very important thing. So if the ICA at any point of time will come to know that you are trying to solicit, directly clause 66 will be applicable to you and you will be guilty of professional. So try to give the bare statement of facts. Okay, try to give the bare statement of fact, bare statement of partnership, change in office or vacancy required. These kind of advertisements are allowed, right? Classified advertisement in the ICAI journal and newsletters. So if you are giving your advertisement in the ICAI journals, जैसे articleship में you get the journals every month, and after getting qualified also you get one book from ICAI, journals book from the ICAI. So if you are getting this ICAI journals and newsletters, in that what kind of advertisement you can give? For sharing or seeking professional work on assignment, partnership basis or salaried employees, provided it only contains the accountant's name, address, telephone, fax number, email address. Firm name is prohibited. If you are advertising in the ICAI journals and ICAI newsletters, what is allowed? Your name is allowed. Your address is allowed of the firm. Your telephone is allowed. Your fax number is allowed. Your email is allowed. What is not allowed? Firm name is not allowed. So remember one thing. How to remember clauses? Sir, so many things we have to remember. I will tell you everywhere. Everywhere firm name is not allowed. That is something you have to remember. Everywhere firm name is not allowed. If the firm name is coming, then in that case you are guilty of profession. You give your name, you give your phone number, you give your designation, you give your fax number, email address. So most of the cases, 99.99% of the cases, firm name should not. If the firm name is coming, you are guilty of professional misconduct under clause number 6. Clear? So did we understand? Yes, we understood. So if you're giving the newspaper advertisement, then the bare statement of fact should be there. If you're giving the ICAI journal may, if you are giving any kind of requirements of the professional work, then in that case your name, fax, telephone, email is allowed, but firm name is not allowed. Remember one thing, firm name not allowed. Clear? Up to this point, any doubt? I think no doubt. So empanelment for audit or other professional works. So sometimes government departments like PSU banks, and they want you to empanel as you as a statutory auditor. So if you are responding to those empanelments, then in that case you should not be held guilty of professional matter. But there is one thing. Say for example, suppose C&AG. Now look at this example. Suppose C&AG wants to empanel for the government audits. C&AG gave the empanelment for the government audit. Now empanelment started on 1st October 2020. Say for example, starting of the empanelment is 1st April. So applications will be starting from 1st October 2020. It is ending on 20th October 2020. So as a chartered accountant, you already have a knowledge that within these 20 days, you have to file an application. So if you are filing the application, for empanelment under these 20 days, it means you already have the knowledge of that empanelment and you know the time period is there, you are not guilty. Because they are asking you to file the information, you are not soliciting, they are asking you to file the information. But suppose on 25th October, now look at that, when the last date of the application was there, 20th October was the last date. But when you are applying 25th October, now listen to this. Suppose one CA in practice, one member in practice sent one letter to the C&AG empanelment board. Sir, is the requirement still open? Is the requirement still open? Now, are you asking this or not? It means you are desperately looking for the empanelment, and you already know that 20th October was the last date. Still on the 25th October, you are making an application and you are asking it again as if you don't have the knowledge. That shows your desperation to have the empanelment. That shows your desperation to have a profession. In such cases, in such cases, you will be guilty of professional misconduct. Are you getting the point? So if you already have the knowledge that empanelment is closed, again and again you are making the roving inquiries. You are making the which inquiries? It is known as roving inquiries. You are again and again asking, sir, is the empanelment still open? Is the empanelment still open? You already know that empanelment is over. If you are making these kind of inquiries, that shows your desperation, that shows your solicitation, and you will be guilty of professional misconduct under clause number 6. Clear everyone? Yes. Now see, government departments, let me, government departments, government companies, corporation, court, cooperative society, banks and other similar prepare panels for chartered accountant for allotment of audit and professional work. Where the existence of such panel is within the knowledge of the member, he is free to write to concerned organization with a request to place his name on the board. You already know that you are applying within that time period, you are free to write. However, it would not be proper for a chartered accountant to make a roving inquiries. What do you mean by roving inquiries? When you already know that empanelment is closed, still you are asking them, sir, is the empanelment still open or not? That is known as roving inquiries by applying to any such organization for having his name included in any such panel permitted to quote fee when required. So if you are making the roving inquiries, you are guilty of professional misconduct. Are you getting the point? Now, further, post empanelment CA may inquire about whether any work allotted to him but cannot be demand or solicit for. Are you getting now? Post empanelment, if you want, you can send them a letter ki whether empanelment has been allotted or not, whether work has been allotted or not. But if you are demanding the work, if you are soliciting the work, sir, please give me empanelment. Sir, why you have not chosen me for empanelment? These kind of, so language of the letter matters. If the ICA will come to know that the language of your letter is indicating the solicitation, then in that case you will be guilty of professional misconduct under clause number 6. You can directly ask the empanelment board, sir, empanelment work allotted or not? Not allotted? Okay, keep you calm. But again, sir, why it is not allotted? I am practicing CA of last 7 years. I am an FCA. Still, why I have not been selected? So that shows your desperation. So that makes you guilty of professional misconduct under clause number 6. Right? Next one. So if you are giving your name in the telephone directories, if you are giving your name in the private telephone directories, then what are the guidelines you have to follow? Now see, CA not permitted to specially request or pay premium for any favor listed in such directory. First of all, what every normal person is paying the money for the telephone directories to include their name in those telephone directories, the same money you have to pay. If you are paying something extra, if you are paying something premium, then in that case it means obviously you want that telephone directory person to do something extra favor to you. So that is nothing but called indirectly as soliciting. So normal payment is only allowed, extra premium payment is not allowed, right? So extra premium payment not allowed. If you are making the extra premium payment, then immediately in the question, if you see this kind of question ki yes, a chartered accountant in practice paid 5,000 rupees to the telephone directory to include his name in the telephone directory, whereas the normal fees was 2,000. Why he paid 3,000 extra? It means he must have demanded some extra premium features, not allowed. It means you're guilty of professional misconduct. You are indirectly soliciting it. Point number 1. Point number 2, you should choose the category of the chartered accountants only where your name should come. Suppose you are choosing one category other than the chartered accountants. It means why you are choosing the category other than the chartered accountants when your profession is chartered accountant only. So if you are choosing the category also other than the chartered accountants, you are guilty. So here also you are guilty if you are choosing the category other than the chartered accountant. Next point, you should only give your name in the list of town or city in which you stay. You are not allowed to give your name in the telephone directories of the other cities. So if you are giving your name in the telephone directories of the other cities, that shows also the what do you say, solicitation. The member of the firm should belong to the same city or city or respect directory is being published. So suppose I belong to Hyderabad. So Hyderabad telephone directory mein if my name is coming, then it's fine. But my name is also coming in the Vizag telephone directory. That is not allowed. So in that case, you are guilty. Entry should be in the normal type of letters. You should not tell the telephone directory person to increase the font size. Now suppose every chartered accountant's name is written in the 3 font size. You have told you have paid some premium amount and told him to write your name in the 6 font size. So why your name is written in the 6 font size? It means you want to differentiate your name from the others. So that is not allowed. That is again indirect solicitation. So these are the small guidelines you have to remember. Make sure that your name in the telephone directory is coming as per the alphabetically and logical manner. So suppose my name is Rohit Grover. So R comes after so many alphabets. But I paid some extra amount to the telephone directory person and told him to put my name in the first. First Rohit Grover is coming, then A started, B started, C started, D started. Now how R can come before A? It should be in an alphabetical manner or it should be in a logical manner. So if I'm trying my level best to ensure that my name should come before everyone else, no, you are guilty. In that case also you are guilty. So these are the various guidelines issued by the ICA. Next guideline. Entry should not appear in the manner giving the impression of publicity of advertisement. Simple, your name should be there and your phone number should be given. You should not write anything extra. Having experience of 10 years, having experience of 20 years along with your name. So if you are unnecessarily advertising your professional attainments or unnecessarily advertising your publicizing your experience, then in that case you are guilty of professional misconduct. Clear? Yes. Next point. The payment for any entry should not be unreasonable. That I already told you, what the normal person is paying, the same amount you should pay. If you are paying any premium amount or extra amount, you are guilty of professional misconduct. Entry should not be restricted or should not be restricted and should be open to all chartered accountants. Say for example, there is my competitor in my area. I'm Grover and Associates and somebody is ABC and Associates. I paid some extra money to telephone directory people and told them that please don't include his name in the list of chartered accountant because he's my competitor. So can I restrict any chartered accountant to be included in the telephone directory by paying some extra money? Answer is no. In that case also you will be guilty of professional misconduct. So it should be open to all chartered accountant. It should not be restricted. Yes. Subject to the above conditions, the members can include their names in the trade directories which are published or otherwise available, such as electronic media, internet, telephone directories like Ask Me services. They said Just Dial, Yellow Pages. Are you getting the point? Sulekha. In that case also you can give your names. But remember, no solicitation. Only the bare statement of facts. Rohit Grover, Chartered Accountant, contact number, auditing services, accounting services, simple nature. Only bare statement of facts are allowed. Are you getting the point or not? You are not allowed to profound yourself or needless publicity is not required. Then in that case, you will be guilty of professional misconduct. Next, I already told you, responding to tenders and advertisement and circulars are already allowed. You are not guilty generally. But recently, ICA has given some clarification in. Now listen to this. Now, what is a clarification? Suppose there is a tender. Now listen to this. If the tender is only open for chartered accountants, if the tender is only opened for chartered accountants and you are responding to that, only open for chartered accountant means, are we degrading the other professions? Are we degrading the other professionals or not? Yes. So if the tender is open only for chartered accountants, they are asking you to reply only if you are chartered accountant and then you are replying or responding, you are guilty of professionals. But if the tender is open for all types of professionals, if the tender is open for all types of professionals and then you are replying, then in that case you are not guilty. Are you getting the point? So remember one thing, sir, we didn't understand. Sir, why chartered accountant should not reply when the tender is only for chartered accountant? Indirectly, we are degrading the other profession. But if it is open for every profession, if you are replying, then CS, CMA or CS you are replying, no problem with that. That is what the idea behind maintaining the dignity of the profession. So you never know from where ICA may ask you this kind of question. So see, this clause specifically permits responding to tenders and inquiring. Further, he is also free to pay the earnest money or security deposit if required. If the tender person requires you to deposit some caution deposit, earnest deposit, or security deposit, if you are depositing that, then also it is fine. You are not guilty of professional misconduct. So not guilty so far. But what I told you about all the professionals and only CAs, that will come later on. However, as per the guidelines issued by the Council of Institute of Chartered Accountant of India, a member of institute in practice shall not respond to any tenders issued by the organization or user of professional services in the area of services which are exclusively reserved for chartered accountants. If they are giving any tender notice where they want you to reply and that services are exclusively reserved for chartered accountant, and if you are responding, you are allowed or not allowed, shall not respond, it is written. It means ICA wants to say that if you are responding, then you are guilty of professional, such as audit and attestation survey. However, such restrictions shall not be applicable where the minimum fees of the assignment is prescribed in the tender document or where the areas are open to the other professionals along with the chartered accountant. That is what I told you. If only reserved for chartered accountant you are responding, you are guilty. All professionals plus prescribed fees is also being given, then in that case you are not guilty. Simple, remember this rule. Only reserved for chartered accountants, guilty if you are responding. But if it is applicable for all the professionals with the prescribed fees is also being given, then in that case you are not guilty. Clear everyone? Yes sir, crystal clear. Okay. So let us understand the next guideline. Publication of books and articles. So remember one thing, in the publication of books of articles, if you are an author of any books, then in that case your name is allowed, your designation is allowed, but your firm name, again I told you, not allowed. So say for example, my advanced auditing and professional ethics book which I have delivered to you. Now I can write CA Rohit Grover FCA Chartered Accountant. So CA Rohit Grover FCA is my name. Chartered accountant is my designation, but can I write Grover and Associates in my authored book? No, I cannot write. Then in that case, if I am writing, then I am guilty of professional mistake. So what is allowed? Name is allowed, designation is allowed, but firm name is not allowed. Firm name is not allowed. Clear everyone? Yes. Now, if you are very, very important topic, very, very, very important. Now suppose, let me give you an example. Say for example, you have opened a new office. Look at the whole example. You have opened a new office or you have bought a new house, anything. Now, obviously, you will do the housewarming ceremony or any festive ceremony. Yes. So, you are doing one ceremony. Now, there are two partners, A and B. Both are chartered accountants and both are partners and their firm name is AB and Co. Are you getting the point? A has bought the new house. Say, for example, A has bought the new house. Are you getting the point? Now, for the new house, is he going to send invitation letters to his relatives? Yes. So, invitation is sending to the relatives, is sending to the close friends, is sending to his clients. Obviously, he will send the invitation letter to the relatives, close friends, and clients. Am I correct or not? Remember one thing, who bought the office? A bought the office or A bought the new house. If he wants, in this invitation card, he can mention his name, allowed. He can mention his designation as chartered accountant, allowed. But he cannot mention what? Firm name. Firm name, so definitely I told you, not allowed. This invitation card, if he's sending this invitation card to his relatives, allowed. To his close friends, allowed. To his clients, even though A and B are partners, to his clients, to particularly his clients, it is allowed. But in this case, this invitation is sent to the relatives or close friends or clients of another partner also. Another partner also. In that case, you are guilty. In that case, you are guilty. Remember one thing, if you have bought an office or if you have bought what do you say, any house, and you are sending the invitation card, send it to your relatives, your close friends, and your clients. If you are sending it to your partner's relatives, partner's clients, or partner's friends, then in that case you are guilty. Reason: your relatives know you, your close friend knows you, your client knows you, but your partner's relatives, close friends, and clients, if you are sending, ICA assumes that you are doing indirect insolicitation. Indirect, you are demanding the work from them. Are you getting the point? So if you are sending it to your own, not guilty. But if you are sending it to your partner's relative or close friends or client, then in that case you are guilty. Clear? Crystal clear? Yes. Now see, permitted. What is permitted? Issue of greeting cards, name of the firm, designation, chartered accountant. Name of the firm is permitted only if you are sending to your own, because your friends, your clients, and your own friends, your own relatives, and your own clients knows the name of the firm. It is allowed. So name of the firm, designation, chartered accountant, further to send only to the clients relative. What is the word used? Only to the clients, relatives, and friends of the members concerned. Prohibited word: professional designation, status, and qualification. Are you getting the point or not? So I think there is one problem. I think there is one problem. Name of the firm should not be allowed. Professional designation is allowed. There's a misprinting actually. Name of the firm is not allowed. Professional designation is allowed. So I can write my name, I can write my designation, but I think name of the firm is allowed if you are sending it to your relatives, your clients, and your friends. But if you are sending it to the others, then in that case, first of all, though, you are guilty of professional misconduct. So remember one thing, two things you have to understand. Point number one: only to your clients, only to your relatives, only to your friends. Designation is allowed. Other professional attainments not allowed. Name of the firm not allowed. Name allowed. Designation is allowed. Did you get the point? So very important question, and let me tell you one thing. This question has come in the RTP November 2020 also. In the RTP November 2020 also. So if you want to discuss the RTP, if you want to have a look at the RTP, I have uploaded one video on the YouTube. You can have an access, right? So this is what. Now, if the chartered accountant is making the roving inquiries, I told you now this clause deserves a lot of explanations, lot of guidelines are there. If the chartered accountant is making the roving inquiries, what do you mean by roving inquiries? Again and again, again and again, you are making the inquiries by sending the various letters. Even though you know that empanelment is closed, even though you know that that particular requirement is not there, but still you are sending. Is there any requirement? Is there any requirement? Is there any requirement? In that case, that shows your desperation to get that work. In that case, you are guilty of what? Professional misconduct. Clear? You're guilty of professional misconduct. In case you are doing the which one? Guilty of professional misconduct if you are making the which inquiries? Roving inquiries. Clear? Okay, next one. Seeking work from the professional colleagues that you already know. A practicing CA can seek the work from the another practicing CA. It will be allowed. So there is no requirement of reading this whole paragraph. Representation under section 25 of Companies Act 1956. Now it is known as section number 140 actually. So section number 140 is removal. Are you getting the point or not? Removal. Now remember one thing. Do you remember, as per section number 40, 140 removal, section number 140 subsection 4, do we give the opportunity of being heard to the retiring auditor or not? To the removable outgoing auditor will be given the opportunity of being heard. One copy will be sent to the NCLT. If he is trying to take the needless publicity, or if he is trying to defamate the company, then this opportunity will be taken away. Are you getting the point? So in that case also you will be guilty if you are trying to take the needless publicity under section 140. That is what is being given. So opportunity not to being abused to secure needless publicity does not tantamount directly or indirectly to convincing or soliciting, or is continuous as an auditor. So you should not seek that representation letter opportunity given to you as a method of getting the solicitation, or as a method of getting the needless publicity. Clear? Yes, sir. Clear. Acceptance of original professional work by a member emanating from the client introduced to him by the another member. Listen to this very, very carefully. Listen. Suppose A is a chartered accountant. He is very experienced tax auditor. A is a chartered accountant and he is very experienced tax auditor. B is also a chartered accountant in practice. He is very experienced statutory auditor. Now, B is already a statutory auditor of XYZ Limited. XYZ Limited statutory auditor is B. Already B is a statutory auditor of XYZ Limited. But XYZ Limited was looking for a tax auditor. XYZ looking for a tax auditor. So B referred XYZ Limited to A. B referred XYZ Limited to go to the A and conduct your tax audit. But you know what the A did? A told that, sir, I will do your tax audit also. I will do your statutory audit also. Please don't go to the B again. How much B is charging? XYZ Limited is saying he is charging 2 lakh rupees. Sir, I'll do it for 1 lakh. Give your statutory audit to me and give your tax audit to me. Now tell me, are you backstabbing the professional who has given you or introduced some professional work or not? Yes, you're backstabbing it. Then in that case, you're guilty of professional misconduct. That shows your desperation. What do you mean by original work? Original professional work in this line means the statutory audit which B was doing. But you are telling your client not to do the only tax audit, you are telling the client to give you the statutory audit also. That is completely unethical. Completely unethical. So, council has decided that, now listen, what the council has decided? Council has decided that a member should not accept the original professional work. What do you mean by original professional work? As per our example, you were referred for the tax audit, you do the tax audit, no problem. But if you will accept the statutory audit, which the B was doing, then in that case, you are guilty of professional misconduct. Who is guilty? A is guilty of professional misconduct. Council had decided that members should not accept the original professional work emanating from a client introduced to him by the another member. Did B introduce to the A XYZ Limited client or not? Yes. And what B was doing? Statutory audit. The original work of B should not be accepted by the A. If you are doing that, you are guilty of professional misconduct. If any professional work of such client comes to him directly, it should be his duty to ask the client that he should come through the other member dealing generally with his original work. Suppose now XYZ Limited is also saying, now listen to this case. Now XYZ Limited is saying, sir, I want to give you my tax audit also and I want to give you my statutory audit also. Who was the earlier auditor of XYZ Limited? B. And XYZ Limited is telling to the A that I want to give you my tax audit also, I want to give you my statutory audit. Now A is not asking him. XYZ Limited is voluntarily giving him. Then also A should not accept. A should tell to the XYZ Limited that please come to me for the statutory audit via your old auditor, the one who has referred me. It is unethical. If I'll accept your statutory audit, B will mind. B has helped me in the professional work in getting the tax audit. How can I backstab the B? How can I backstab the B? B is doing your statutory audit. It's good that you are thinking that I will be your good statutory auditor, but please come via B. Don't come directly to me. That is what is written in the next point. So see, if any professional work of such client comes to him directly, it should be his duty to ask the client that he should come through the other member dealing generally with his. Crystal clear? So that is what is being told to you. Now, giving public interviews. Now, what is the guideline when you're giving the public interviews? Say, for example, I have been interviewed by the TV9. Now, TV9 is asking me, sir, what you want us to tell about you? So, it is my responsibility. So, it is my responsibility to tell the interviewer. It is my responsibility to tell the interviewer. It is my responsibility to tell the interviewer to take my name, no issues. To take my designation, no issues. But don't talk about my any experience. Don't talk about any of my name of the firm. Are you getting the point? If the interviewer is talking about the name of your firm or if the interviewer is talking about your experience, if the interviewer is talking about anything other than your name and designation, then you are guilty of professional misconduct. Sir, why I am guilty? Interviewer talked about me. Why should I be guilty? It is your responsibility to tell the public interviewer to make sure that he should not or she should not speak about your attainments, experience, and form name. To ensure that it does not result into publicity, details about the members of the firms not given in the manner highlighting their professional attainment. Did you get the point or not? Name of the firm should not be given. Professional attainment should not be given. Name and designation is fine. My name Rohit Grover. I would like to introduce Mr. Rohit Grover. He's a chartered accountant. That is more than enough. Having 20 years of experience, having the firm name called Grover and Associates, has been awarded as the best chartered accountant in the Telangana Association of Chartered Accountant. These kind of things are not required to begin. It means you told them, that's why they are telling them. You told them to tell that on the TV, that's why they are saying it in the interview. So you are guilty of professional mistake. Are you getting the point? Next one. Prohibition to publish advertisements under the PO box number. The chartered accountants and the chartered accountants firm would be free to create their own website subject to the overall guidelines laid down by the council here and there. So now website guidelines we have to remember. So we have to discuss now all and each and everything relating to the website guidelines. So what is allowed, what is not allowed. The actual format of website is not being prescribed, not any standard format. So format can be any. It means you can choose any design relating to a website. So particular format of website should be there. Particular choosing of the color should be there. That is not ICA saying. The format can be any. No problem with the format. Is being given to the independence to the member. There is no restriction on the colors. So no restriction on format and no restriction on color. So color and format can be chosen any. No problem. There is no guilty of professional misconduct if you are choosing any kind of color or if you are choosing any format of your website. Clear everyone? Yes sir, we understood. Individual members would also be permitted to have their web pages in their trade name or individual name. So those chartered accountants who are making their website, they are allowed to have their web page in their trade name or in their individual name in the website. Allowed. So that is also allowed. Next, chartered accountants or chartered accountants firms would ensure that where websites are running on a pull model, not on push model of technology. Now, lot of discussion is here. One discussion is required. Sir, what do you mean by pull model? And what do you mean by push model? What is allowed? Pull model is allowed, push model is not allowed. Now, let me give you the differentiation between the pull model and push model. Now, what do you mean by pull model? Suppose you are going to my website. Suppose you are my client. You are going to my website, groverandassociates.com. You opened it. Pop-ups are coming. Pop-ups are coming. Best chartered accountant, having 20 years of experience, provides insolvency professional services, provide this. That is called push model. That is called what? Push model. Automatically the information is coming even though I don't need. It means you have designed your website in such a manner that you are telling your professional attainments to the whosoever who's visiting your website without asking. That is called push model. In that case, you are guilty of professional misconduct. So automatic pop-ups if the coming, like talking about your experience, talking about publicizing you, talking about your professional attainments, then in that case you are guilty of professional misconduct. Pull model means what? Okay, now you open a groverassociates.com. Nothing is popping up. Nothing is coming. There is written services column. You clicked that service column, then only the services list is coming. That is called pull model, pulling the information. Are you pulling the information by clicking on that particular window or not? Yes. Okay, so that is known as pull model. So if your website is running on the pull model of technology, it is allowed. But if your website is running on a push model of technology, you are guilty of professional misconduct because that is not allowed. So not guilty. So here you are not guilty and here you are guilty. So remember one thing, each and every kind of, suppose name of the clients, services, experience, all these things If pop-up they are coming, they are push model. But if the person who is visiting your website is retrieving the information by clicking on the window, that is called pull model. So pull model is allowed. He is pulling the information. You are not pushing the information. The visitor is pulling the information. You are not pushing the information. That is called pull model and push model. So your website should run on a pull model. It should not be on push model. Very, very important point relating to website guidelines. To ensure that a person who wishes to locate the chartered accountant or chartered accountant firm would only have access to information, and the information should be provided only on the basis of pull request. So you're clicking the button, then only information is clear. Next point. The chartered accountants or the chartered accountant firm should ensure that none of the information contained in the website be circulated on their own through emails or by any other mode or technique except on the pull model. So again, if you are having any information in your website, make sure that it should be hidden, and if somebody wants to get that information, he should click on that window, then only the information should be coming. That is what they are saying. Chartered accountant would also not issue any circular or any advertisement or any material or any kind whatever by virtue of they solicit to visit their website. The chartered accountant would, however, be permitted to mention their website address on their professional stationery. What they're saying that you should not advertise in the newspaper ki yes, Grover and Associates has made an advertisement. No, that is not allowed. It means you are indirectly telling the people to visit your website. Are you getting the point? So advertisement relating to website is not allowed. Remember one thing, you are not allowed to make any kind of website relating, any kind of advertisement relating when you have created a website. Are you getting the point or not? Right? But you are allowed to mention your website address on your stationery items, on my visiting card, on my letterhead. So whatever the stationery items you print for your practicing firm, there it is allowed. Next. Following information may be allowed to be displayed on the firm's or members website. So what kind of information is allowed on your website? Members name, trade name, firm name allowed. Year of establishment allowed. But let me tell you one thing, year of establishment should be on pull model. Because if the year of establishment I'll write since 1969, if I'll write Grover and Associates since 1969 or since 1989, that shows that I am having a 30 years experience. So that is unnecessary publicity. So remember one thing, year of establishment is required, that is on pull model. Members name, firm's address, both head office and branches, telephone number, fax number, IDs allowed. Nature of services which you are rendering is allowed, but again on which model? Pull model. I told you na, anything which is talking about your publicity, which is talking about your professional attainments, which is going to solicit any kind of work, should be on which model? Should be on pull model, should not be on push model. Year of establishment should be on push model, and what do you say? Yes, the nature of services also should be on push model, pull model. Partner's name allowed. Name of the name and year of the qualification allowed. Other qualifications allowed. Telephone, director, residence, mobile, email address allowed. But experience of your partners. Again, we are talking about the experience. Again, experience should be given on a which model? Pull model. So if you want to see the experience, click that button. It should not pop up. Experience should be given on again which model? Pull model. Next point. Details of employee. So again, name of the details, other name, designation, but their experience of the employees also should be given on a which model? Pull model. Professional, other names, designation, area of experience to be displayed only on pull model. So I told you most of the things should be on pull model. But yes, if you are giving any job vacancies in your website or relating to article assistants, that is allowed. No number of articles to be displayed only on pull model. Now, how many articles are working in your firm? How many articles are working in your firm? If someone wants to know that, there should be a pull model. Pop-up should not be there ki we have 20, 30 articles. So if you are saying that you are 20, 30 articles, it means you are a good firm. You are indirectly soliciting. So how many articles are working? That should also be given in the pull model. Nature of the assignment handled or name of the client, again in the pull model. Name of the clients and fee charge cannot be given. Remember one thing, name of the clients and how much fees you are charging. You cannot say that I have served Reliance India Limited, I have served Infosys. So if you are giving the name of your clients, then you are indirectly nothing but publicizing yourself. You are indirectly nothing but soliciting the work. Name of the clients and fees charge is not permitted, but it is not 100% true. You can give the name of your clients and you can give the fee charged relating to your clients only with the prior permission of regulator. If the regulator means statutory authority is allowing you or asking you to display the name of your clients and fees charged with the prior permission of the regulator, if the regulator requires that information to be published on your website, then only you are allowed to give the name of your employees and the fees what you are charged from your employees. That is what the next note is all about. Disclosure of the name of the clients and fee charge on the website is permissible only where it is required by a regulator, whether or not constituted under the statute in India or outside India, provided that such disclosure is only to the extent of requirement of the regulator. If the regulator requirement is there, regulator permission is there, then only is allowed. So remember this word called regulator. MCQ question may come. Where such a disclosure of the name of the clients or fee charge is made on the website, the member firm name shall ensure that it is mentioned on the website in the italics. टेढ़ा करके it's in italics format. Below such a disclosure itself, that this disclosure is in terms of requirement of the name of the regulator. Which regulator is asking you to display the name of the client and which regulator is asking you to display the features, the name of that regulator also is required to be displayed. Having jurisdiction, the name of the country, area where such regulator has jurisdiction under which the disclosure is required by the regulator. So in this paragraph, very, very important. So remember one thing, client's name and client's fee charge is generally not allowed to be displayed. When it is allowed to be displayed, it is only allowed to be displayed when it is the name of the, when it is a approval or requirement of the regulator. Clear? Next point. Since the chartered accountant in practice of the firm are not permitted to use a logo. So remember one thing, you are not allowed to use the logo in your website. You are not allowed to use a logo in your website. Which logo? Logo created by your own. Logo created by you own. But sir, normal green color, blue color logo we can use? Yes, that you are allowed to use. So remember one thing, your own self-created logos are not allowed. So I will create my own design, CA in a different font and A in a different font. No, that is not allowed. Simple CA logo is allowed. And generally, logos are allowed on the visiting cards. Generally, logos are allowed on the visiting cards and letterheads. That is not allowed generally on the website. So, can you display your passport size photograph? Yes. So, remember one thing, what is the size of your photo? It should be passport size. It should not be, this much of size. Suppose the whole screen your photo is coming. No, that is not allowed. Passport size photograph is only permitted on the website. Next one. The members may include the articles, professional information, professional updation, and other members of larger importance of professional interest. So, general informations you are allowed. You are allowed to include the bulletin boards. Yes, you are allowed to have a chat rooms in which only clients of yours can be able to chat. So chat rooms can be provided which permitting chatting among members of ICA and between the firm and its clients, and confidentiality protocol would have to be observed. So you can also establish a chat room where the members can chat with the other members or you can chat with your clients, but make sure that confidentiality, you should not disclose any secretive or confidential information via chat rooms. Next one. Members can provide online advice to the clients who specifically request for advice, whether free of charge or on payment. So you can provide a particular line advice to your clients if they are asking you any kind of advice or any kind of suggestion or recommendation, either free of charge or on payment. That is your case. Next one. So I told you now website guidelines are very huge. So can you have a search engine? Yes, you can have a search engine also. Like Google is a search engine, we can have a search engine on our website. But remember one thing, on that search engine, only which kind of things can be searched relating to your profession. CA, CMA, CS, CMA, Institute of Chartered. So only the professional websites or the professional departments or the government departments like mca.gov.in, these kind of things, chartered accountant India, chartered accountant, chartered accountants in India, these kind of keywords are only allowed to be searched in your search engine. You are not allowed to search YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. These things are not allowed, right? So that is what all written in this particular paragraph. You can read it on your own at the latest time. ICA at its sole discretion may vet any of the website created by its members or individual chartered accountant or former chartered and would have powers to direct deletion of certain portions or issue specific instruction. In addition, necessary action can be taken in accordance with the Chartered Accountant in 1949 and the regulation framed thereunder in case there is any violation of the above guidelines. So if the ICA wants that any particular website shall be taken out, may take out any website if think that yes they are unnecessarily doing unnecessary things which are against the guidelines of the ICA, then in that case ICA can ask you to remove it. Next point, the details in the website should be so designed that it does not amount to soliciting the client. In any case, content or technical feature of website is against the professional code as well as the restriction contained in schedule or against the guidelines. The ICA from time to time will take appropriate action, will be intimated with the ICA in terms of disciplinary mechanism, either suo motu or complaint under the chartered accountant. So if somebody can make a complaint about your website, make sure that your website must be following the rules and regulations and guidelines which are issued by whom? ICA. Other than the guidelines which are issued by the ICA, you are not allowed to maintain the website. So mota main thing you have to understand in the website is a pull model is a main thing. You will automatically, I will tell you, once the professional ethics topic will be over, now you will automatically start getting the answers to all the professional ethics. It is damn easy topic. Because once we learn and read each and every word of our chapter, then things have gone inside our head. Automatically, you will understand, okay, is it amounting to publicity? Okay, is it amounting to advertisement? Automatically, you will come to know. So you need not mug up. Try to understand what ICA is trying to tell to the members in practice. Don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. If you are doing that, you are guilty of profession. Website should ensure the adequate secrecy of the matters of the client. That we already know that we have to maintain the confidentiality. Are you getting the point? The number of chartered accountants, societies or other bodies creating databases of chartered accountants or chartered accountants firms and are offering listing to the chartered accountants, such listing would be permitted with or without payment in case a chartered accountant or the chartered accountant firm is a member of professional body or association of chambers of commerce and they offer listing to the members, the same would be permitted. So say for example, if suppose there is one website, this website is providing the data of all the chartered accountants of Telangana. There is one website. That website is totally dedicated to the chartered accountants of Telangana. So it is giving the list of each and every chartered accountant, their address, their fax number, telephone number, email number. That is allowed. You are permitted to give your name to such kind of websites. Institute of Chartered Accountant of India will regularly inform the aforesaid guidelines to the members and the chartered accountant firms to ensure the strict compliance of the guidelines. Guidelines may be revised from time to time. Next one. No advertisement in the nature of the banner or any nature will be permitted on the website. You are not supposed to put a banner kind of thing, right or not? Big banner kind of thing. Services, best audit services, all those things. Banner kind, simple, sober website is required. Website should be befitting the profession of chartered accountant and should not contain any information material which is unbecoming of chartered accountant. So make sure that in your website you should not display any kind of information which is degrading the people, which is demotivating the people to become a chartered accountant. If you are putting any information on your website, make sure that it should be motivating information to become a chartered accountant to come into this profession. If you are putting any kind of information which is defaming ICA or degrading ICA or becoming of chartered accountant, you are saying that no, I'm not happy becoming chartered accountant. All these kind of useless things are not allowed in the website. Next one. Website may provide the links to the website of ICA. Yes, in your website you can give a direct link to the ICA, ICMAI, ICSI, MCA.gov.in, any educational website, any government website, government undertakings, foreign courses website, because it should be relating to the education, it should be relating to our profession. So surrounding our profession, whatever, like SEBI uh, website also address you can give, other professional bodies in India, outside India, whatever the other professional bodies, so their links also you can provide to your website. Allowed. The address of the website can be different from the name of the firm, but it should not amount to soliciting clients. So, say for example, if I'm keeping www.groverandassociates.com, simple name. But if I'm writing www.bestcharteredaccountantsofIndia.com, soliciting. www.bestcharteredaccountantsininhyderabad.com, soliciting. www.xyz and associates, no soliciting allowed. So make sure that your advertisement, your address of the website should not be soliciting in nature. Your address of the website should not be uh, publicizing in nature, should not be telling that you are the best or the worst or better and all those things. Simply name is required, right? Next one, the website should mention the date up to which it is updated, and information should not be material variance from the information as per ICAI records. So in case your website is updated, make sure that you are updating that with the ICAI till what date your website is updated. Are you getting the point? The website address of the member we obtained on annual basis, and the annual required to be filed by the members while paying the fees, and the same shall be taken as a record. The website address of the members be provided to the members as a part of membership record. If the member choose not to give his website address, it did not prevent the institute to take a suitable action against him in case his non-compliance with the guidelines. So date of updating the website is mandatory to be given to the ICAI. If you choose not to give the website address to the ICAI, but make sure that you are still following the guidelines which are issued by the ICAI. If anybody will make a complaint about your website relating to ICAI, then in that case you will be guilty of professional misconduct under clause number 6. So remember one thing, any question relating to website, any question relating to public interview, author, invitation cards, advertisement in press, directory, telephone directory, any such kind of questions, if they are coming, clause number 6 should come to your mind. The number of non-chartered accountants firm, corporate including bank, finance and newspaper have set up their own website providing the advisory services on taxation and other areas where the chartered accountants are rendering professional services. Some of such websites may request chartered accountants or chartered accountant firms to provide consultation and advice through website. This would be permitted subject to the condition that contact address of the chartered accountant concerned is not provided, and no such advertisement will contain any material which advertises the professional attainments of such chartered accountant. Say for example, some non-chartered accountant firms are having their websites. We are registered on those websites as a chartered accountant for providing the services. The idea of the ICAI in every point is same. You should not advertise, you should not solicit, you should not advertise your achievements. Make it simple, give the bare statement of facts, then it is fine. Accountant, next one. The clause requires the auditor to avoid restraint in using any methods to advertise his professional services, thereby in any case arrangement. Now I told you 6 and 7. I told you 6 and 7 clause will always, brother and sister. They are like brother and sister. They will always come together. Directly tantamount to soliciting work. The CA shall be held liable under this clause. The institute pronouncements relating to various acts of CA as explained above are only illustrative to elaborate. So this is nothing but other information which is being given. So majority, and obviously our clause number 6 is 100% over. So now after this we have to concentrate on clause number 7. And remember one thing, in clause number 6 and clause number 7, so many times confusion will come. What kind of confusion will come? Whether clause 6 will come or clause 7 will come. Because in the clause number 6 also, there are so many places where the advertisement has been talked about, and clause number 7 to completely talks about advertisement only. So I will always suggest the student that it is preferable to mention clause 6 and 7 together. Clause 6 and 7 together you should mention. Clear? Yes sir, clear. So these are the some of the decisions you will understand. You have published a book by a firm containing its history for the purpose of distributing the clients, associates, friends, and well wishers, and printing of the word celebrating 75 years of the profession. So you have authored a book, you have published a book where you are giving your history, you are saying that celebrating 75 years. Are you getting the point? You are celebrating 75 years in profession. It means you are nothing but soliciting it. And you printed a special letterheads and special envelopes. The firm will lead to a solicitation of the professional work, hence not permissible to clarify as per the clause number 6 and 7. I already told you 6 and 7 both will come. So basically, let me tell you, soliciting the work is 6. Via advertisement, if you are soliciting the work, then it is 7. So 6 and 7, 99.99% of the cases will come together. Right from the moment 1, when we started doing this particular lecture, I told you 6 and 7 will come together. Now, second case, member is not permitted to use his letterhead containing the name and address of his firm for presenting before the public at large. Are you getting the point? If you are presenting your letterhead before the public at large, name and designation is fine. But if the name of the firm is written on your letterhead, special. Now, ICAI is not prohibiting you from printing a letterhead with your firm name. But when you are giving your letterhead to the public at large, then in that will amount to soliciting. Because as it contains the proportional element and leads to solicitation of. So that brings an end to our clause number 6, everyone. So remember one thing, clause number 6 and 7 only takes the maximum amount of time in the professional ethics. Once the 6 and 7 will be over, remaining clauses will be like this. So I don't think so that after 7, there will be only 1.5 lecture only required for the remaining clauses. Only 1.5 lecture required for the remaining clauses. Another 2.5 hours of lecture is required for the remaining clauses. Nothing more than that. 6 and 7 are highly important. Clear everyone? Chalo. So let us start with the clause number 7.